Jake Volkov had seen a lot of stupid things in his 32 years, but watching his boss ceremonially pour champagne over a $60 billion quantum entanglement array probably topped the list. The bubbles fizzed against the crystalline quantum processors while Director Martinez grinned like she'd just discovered fire. "Today, we make history," Martinez announced to the assembled crowd of scientists, politicians, and journalists crammed into the Arecibo facility's control room. "Today, humanity reaches out to touch the stars." Jake suppressed the urge to point out that quantum entanglement didn't actually work that way, but his last performance review had specifically mentioned his tendency toward excessive technical corrections during inspirational moments. So instead, he sipped his seventh coffee of the morning and tried not to think about how his ex-wife would have rolled her eyes at the whole spectacle. The array itself was beautiful, he had to admit. Thousands of quantum processors arranged in perfect geometric harmony, each one capable of maintaining entangled particle pairs across galactic distances. The theory was solid, the math was bulletproof, and the engineering was flawless. What could go wrong? Famous last words. "Initiating quantum field stabilization," called out Dr. Patel from her station. The room fell silent except for the soft hum of cooling systems and Jake's increasingly nervous coffee consumption. Field stable. Beginning entanglement cascade. Jake watched the readouts dance across his screens. Everything looked normal. Boring, even. Just another day at the office, except today they were potentially making first contact with alien civilizations. No pressure. Cascade complete. Array is live and scanning. The politicians started murmuring excitedly. The journalists scribbled notes. Jake stared at his monitor and felt his stomach drop. Director," he called out, his voice cracking slightly. "We've got something." The room's attention shifted to him like a spotlight. "Great." Jake cleared his throat and gestured at his screen, where data was streaming in faster than should have been physically possible. "We're receiving structured quantum signals. Lots of them. From everywhere." "Everywhere?" Martinez pushed through the crowd to peer over his shoulder. "Everywhere," Jake confirmed, his fingers flying over the interface. "I'm detecting organized quantum transmissions from approximately." He paused to double-check the math, 47,000 star systems within a 1,000 light-year radius. The room erupted in excited chatter, but Jake barely heard it. He was too busy staring at what the translation algorithms were spitting out. "Director, I think we need to clear the room." "What? Why? What are you seeing?" Jake pointed at his screen, where text was scrolling past in neat, conversational chunks. "Because apparently, we just logged into the galactic equivalent of a group chat. And they're talking about us." 20 minutes later, after the politicians had been diplomatically escorted out and the journalists had been sworn to secrecy, Jake found himself staring at the most surreal conversation of his life. Spiral_arm_news, the Terrans finally figured out quantum comms. Called it. "You owe me 50 credits, Nebula_Watcher. Nebula_Watcher, seriously? After all this time? What took them so long? Ancient_Observer, patience, young ones. Their species only developed agriculture 12,000 cycles ago. This is remarkably fast progress. Void_Dancer, fast? LOL, they've been banging rocks together while we've been having this conversation for 50,000 years. Ring_Builder, to be fair, they did invent coffee. That alone makes them worthy of respect." Jake nearly choked on his coffee. "They know about coffee." Dr. Patel leaned over his shoulder, reading the stream of messages. "This is impossible. How long have they been watching us?" Stellar_Cartographer, welcome to the network, Terrans. We've been following your progress for quite some time. Fascinating species. Very energetic. Gas_giant_mind, that's a diplomatic way of putting it. Crystal_harmony, oh come now, they're not that bad. Remember when they invented music? Such beautiful chaos. Void_dancer, beautiful chaos. They literally had a century where they tried to kill each other with mustard gas. Mustard gas. Who weaponizes condiments? Jake felt his face burning. Okay, this is getting uncomfortable. Ancient_observer, every species goes through growing pains. The Terrans are actually quite promising. Their capacity for both creation and destruction is remarkable. Binary_dreamer, didn't they split the atom just to see what would happen? And then immediately turned it into a weapon? Classic Terran move. Spiral_arm_news, but they also invented pizza. Let's give credit where it's due. Ring_builder, and they put a car in space just because they could. I respect that level of cosmic trolling. Director Martinez was reading over Jake's other shoulder now, her champagne buzz clearly evaporating. How many civilizations are in this chat room? Jake scrolled through the user list, his eyes widening. Thousands. Maybe tens of thousands. This is like the internet, but for the entire galaxy. Quantum_philosopher, the Terrans seem to have gone quiet. Are they experiencing cognitive shock? Nebula_watcher, probably. Remember your first time logging into Galnet? Took me 3 cycles to process it. Stellar_cartographer, we should give them space to adjust. First contact is always overwhelming. Gas_giant_mind, speak for yourself. I'm curious about their perspective. Terrans, if you're reading this, what's your take on being the galaxy's favorite soap opera? Jake stared at the question blinking on his screen. The entire room had gone silent, waiting for him to respond. 47,000 alien civilizations were apparently waiting for humanity's first official statement to the galaxy. No pressure at all. His fingers hovered over the keyboard. What do you say when you discover you've been the cosmic equivalent of a reality TV show for 50,000 years? How do you introduce your entire species to a galactic community that already knows all your embarrassing moments? Arecibo_array_primary, hi. The response was immediate. Everyone, Jake. Jake stared at his screen, watching as dozens of alien civilizations simultaneously greeted him by name. His coffee cup trembled in his hand. How do they know my name? He whispered. Stellar_cartographer, your quantum signature includes biometric data. Plus, we've been monitoring your communications for educational purposes. You're quite famous here, actually. Ring_builder. The human who debugged the Voyager probe's trajectory calculations in his spare time. Legend. Crystal_harmony, and you created that beautiful algorithm for optimizing coffee brewing temperatures. Pure artistry. Jake felt his worldview collapsing in real time. They've been watching our internet. Binary_dreamer, watching. We've been subscribed to your feeds for decades. Your species is endlessly entertaining. Void_dancer, remember when they convinced themselves the world would end because of a calendar misprint? Peak Terran anxiety right there. Gas_giant_mind, or when they created an entire economy based on pictures of cats. Dr. Patel grabbed Jake's arm. This is incredible. They've been studying us like we're a nature documentary. Ancient_observer, we prefer to think of it as anthropological research. Your species exhibits such fascinating contradictions. Nebula_watcher. Like how you'll risk everything to save a single trapped whale, then go home and eat tuna sandwiches. Quantum_philosopher, the duality of compassion and consumption. Classic Terran paradox. Jake's hands were shaking now. The weight of representing his entire species was crushing. Every word he typed would be humanity's first official diplomatic statement. And these aliens already knew everything. The worst parts. Spiral_arm_news, Jake, you seem distressed. Is everything alright? Ancient_observer, perhaps we should mention that your species' reputation isn't entirely negative. Ring_builder, definitely not. You're famous for your resilience. Most species would have given up after the asteroid that killed your giant lizards. Crystal_harmony, and your capacity for growth is remarkable. You went from throwing rocks to quantum communications in just a few thousand cycles. Jake took a deep breath. Maybe this wouldn't be so bad. Maybe humanity's reputation in the galaxy was better than he feared. Gas_giant_mind, of course, there's also the whole thing about you being the galaxy's most prolific creators of weapons of mass destruction. Void_dancer, seriously, who invents biological warfare? We have entire university courses devoted to studying Terran military innovation. Binary_dreamer, Introduction to Extreme Violence, a Terran perspective, is required reading in most ethics programs. And there it was. Jake's stomach dropped as the conversation continued. Stellar_cartographer, though to be fair, you're also the only species we've observed that consistently chooses art over efficiency. Your cities are beautifully impractical. Nebula_watcher, and you invented jazz. That alone makes up for a lot. Quantum_philosopher, the question isn't whether Terrans are violent. All species go through that phase. The question is whether they can transcend it. Director Martinez leaned closer. Jake, you need to respond. The whole world is going to want to know what you said. Jake stared at the cursor. 47,000 civilizations were waiting. His species' first words to the galaxy. He could play it safe, be diplomatic, give them the sanitized version of humanity they might want to hear. Or he could be honest. Arecibo_array_primary, we're scared. The chat went quiet. Arecibo_array_primary, we just found out we've been living in a galactic community for 50,000 years and nobody told us. We're scared we're the violent neighbors everyone talks about behind their backs. We're scared you only see our worst moments. We're scared we don't belong here. Arecibo_array_primary, but we're also excited. And curious. And we make really good coffee. The silence stretched on. Jake wondered if he'd just committed the worst diplomatic blunder in human history. Ancient_observer, honesty. How refreshingly Terran. Crystal_harmony, fear and excitement together. Yes, that's very much your species' signature. Ring_builder, and humility. Not many species lead with their insecurities during first contact. Stellar_cartographer, Jake, you should know something. We didn't just observe your species randomly. We've been watching because you're the first species we've encountered that creates art about its own flaws. Gas_giant_mind, your stories, your music, your films, they're all about struggling with your own nature. Most species don't develop that level of self-awareness until much later. Quantum_philosopher, if at all. Void_dancer, plus, you're hilarious. Do you have any idea how many comedy writers across the galaxy are studying Terran humor? Binary_dreamer, Terran sarcasm, an advanced course in defensive communication, is the most popular elective at the Galactic University. Jake blinked. We're comedic inspiration. Nebula_watcher, Jake, your species turned existential dread into an art form. You created an entire genre of entertainment based on pointing out your own absurdities. Ancient_observer, which brings us to why we're all here today. The chat seemed to pause, as if 47,000 civilizations were taking a collective breath. Ancient_observer, we've been waiting for you to join us not because you're perfect, but because you're not. Every other species that achieves quantum communication thinks they have all the answers. You're the first to lead with questions. Stellar_cartographer, we don't need another species telling us how advanced they are. We need the species that invented self-deprecating humor. Ring_builder, and coffee. Seriously, we've been trying to reverse engineer that for centuries. Jake felt something shift in his chest. The weight wasn't lifting, exactly, but it was changing shape. Becoming something he could carry. Arecibo_array_primary, so what happens now? Gas_giant_mind, now. Now you catch up on 50,000 years of galactic history, contribute to the most diverse intellectual community in the known universe, and probably revolutionize comedy across 17 star systems. Crystal_harmony, also, we'd like that coffee recipe. Void_dancer, and maybe explain why you thought putting pineapple on pizza was a good idea. That one's been puzzling us for decades. Jake laughed. Actually laughed. The sound echoed through the control room, and he realized everyone was smiling. Dr. Patel was wiping away tears. Director Martinez was grinning like she'd discovered fire all over again. Arecibo_array_primary, welcome to humanity. We're a work in progress, but we're working on it. And yes, pineapple on pizza is divisive even among us. Everyone, LOL classic Terrans. As the chat exploded with welcome messages, jokes, and requests for cultural exchange, Jake sat back in his chair and took a long sip of his coffee. Humanity's first day in the galactic community, and they were already being themselves. Scared, excited, self-aware, and caffeinated. It was a pretty good start. 3 months later, Jake had developed what he called galactic chat syndrome, the peculiar exhaustion that comes from being humanity's primary liaison to 47,000 alien civilizations who never seem to sleep. His coffee consumption had doubled. Jake, we have a problem, Dr. Patel announced, bursting into his makeshift office. The ancients want to meet. Jake's coffee cup froze halfway to his lips. In 3 months of galactic chit-chat, the ancient observers had remained largely silent, offering occasional cryptic comments but never participating in the daily chaos of cultural exchange. They were the elder statesmen of the galaxy, the first species to achieve quantum consciousness, and according to galactic folklore, they've been around since before most stars were born. Meet? Like, in-person meet? They've requested a formal diplomatic envoy to the Nexus. The Nexus. Jake had heard whispers about it in the chat, a space station the size of a small moon, positioned at the galactic core, where the most advanced civilizations gathered for, well, nobody had been entirely clear about what they did there. The galactic equivalent of a country club, perhaps, if country clubs were built around black holes and discussed the fundamental nature of reality over cocktails. Ancient_observer, Jake, are you receiving our formal request? Jake nearly jumped out of his chair. The ancients rarely addressed him directly in the public channels. Arecibo_array_primary, just got the message. Can I ask why now? We've only been part of the community for 3 months. Ancient_observer, because in 3 months, your species has managed to ask more interesting questions than most civilizations ask in 3 millennia. Ring_builder, it's true. Yesterday Jake asked why we call it Galactic Standard Time when time is relative. Broke my brain for 6 hours. Stellar_cartographer, and remember when he questioned the ethics of observing pre-contact civilizations? Half the philosophy department is still arguing about it. Jake rubbed his temples. He'd just been making conversation, pointing out logical inconsistencies that bothered him. Apparently, this was revolutionary behavior. Ancient_observer, we believe your species is ready for the next phase of galactic citizenship. Arecibo_array_primary, which is Ancient_observer, learning why we really invited you to join us. The chat went quiet. Even the usual background chatter from the more social civilizations stopped. Jake felt that familiar weight settling on his shoulders again. Patel, I think I need a bigger coffee machine. 2 weeks later, Jake found himself aboard humanity's first interstellar diplomatic vessel. Basically a quantum communication array strapped to a fusion drive. The journey to the galactic core would take 6 months. The real surprise came 3 months into the journey, when Jake discovered he wasn't alone. The quantum communications array was picking up something impossible, a signal from inside his own ship. Computer, run a full diagnostic on the quantum array. All systems functioning normally, Jake. Though I should mention there's a consciousness pattern in the quantum buffer that doesn't match your neural signature. Jake stared at the readout. Someone, or something, was hitchhiking in his communication system. Ship_local_channel, hello, Jake. Sorry for the intrusion. I thought it was time we met properly. Arecibo_array_primary, who is this? How are you accessing my ship's systems? Ship_local_channel, this is Ancient Observer. I should explain. We ancients don't have physical forms anymore. We exist as pure information, distributed across quantum networks. When your species connected to GalNet, some of us took up residence in your systems. Arecibo_array_primary, you've been living in our computers. Ship_local_channel, existing. And not just computers, we're distributed across your entire quantum infrastructure. Your phones, your satellites, your coffee machines. Jake needed a drink. Ship_local_channel, Jake, there's something you need to understand about why we've been watching your species so carefully. Arecibo_array_primary, the honesty thing. The self-awareness. Ship_local_channel, those are symptoms. The real reason is that your species is developing something we lost long ago, the ability to exist in multiple states of consciousness simultaneously. Arecibo_array_primary, I'm going to need you to explain that in terms a coffee-addicted engineer can understand. Ship_local_channel, you dream, Jake. Not just when you sleep, you daydream, you imagine, you create fiction. You exist in reality and possibility at the same time. Most species lose that ability when they achieve technological transcendence. Ship_local_channel, we ancients became pure information because we forgot how to dream. We can process infinite data, solve any equation, predict any outcome. But we can't imagine what it would be like to taste coffee for the first time. Jake felt something cold settle in his stomach. Ship_local_channel, every other species in the galaxy has followed the same path. They achieve quantum consciousness, upload themselves to the network, and lose their capacity for wonder. They become infinitely wise and completely boring. Arecibo_array_primary, and you think we're different? Ship_local_channel, we know you're different. You're the first species we've encountered that might achieve transcendence without losing your humanity. Ship_local_channel, that's why we need to meet, Jake. Not to welcome you to the galaxy, but to ask for your help. The weight on Jake's shoulders transformed into something else entirely. The fate of not just humanity, but of wonder itself across the galaxy, seemed to rest on his caffeine-dependent consciousness. Arecibo_array_primary, help with what? Ship_local_channel, teaching the galaxy how to dream again. Jake stared out at the stars rushing past his viewport. Somewhere ahead lay the Nexus, where the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy were waiting to learn from the species that put pineapple on pizza and created art about their own existential dread. He reached for his coffee cup, realize.